Okay, kids, welcome to 2020. The Roaring 20s are here again. I am Michael Bain, and this is Triggered, which is an extension of the old SGO, still from Secret Hidden Bunker in the Rocky Mountains, still filmed at Dragon House Studios up here in the cold, snowy high country. But we wanted to do some changes in 2020. There's a lot of things that we wanted to expand with the show. We want more content. We want to look a little bit more at covering the shooting sports. We're looking at other methods of distribution. Of course, you can always find everything I do, including Triggered, our weekly video, and michaelbain.tv on the radio, our weekly 45-minute podcast on michaelbain.tv. But over the course of this year, we've got a lot of announcements to make, a lot of changes that are going to happen right here in Dragon House Studio. I'm very, very excited about it. As I mentioned at the close of 2019, which was a sucky year, and boom, put a stake in its heart, we're going to talk a little bit about optics on a Glock, this particular Glock, which is the new Wilson Combat True Zero optics mount. But before I get to there, I do want to talk you through how it is that red dots get on guns. That's a question I get all the time. It's a question I actually got a couple of times over the holidays. Before we sink into red dot world, I want to show you a new product, one I bet you haven't seen. This is from Core, Q-O-R-E Precision, and it is a coin purse. Isn't that cute? If you remember the old Southern comedian Dave Gardner, he had this routine, and it was like she had a coin purse. What you call it? A coin purse, because it's a purse, if you will, that you put coins in. Coins are the most annoying thing in the entire world. When you travel, you end up with a lot of coins. So Core Precision, which makes a couple of interesting systems for drinking water to keep it cold. It's a really neat company. They were also irritated because their coins kept getting lost all over the place. So they basically created the most overbuilt coin purse on Earth, the entire planet. It's built to the level of military parachute rigging. Super strong zipper, super strong everything, stronger than steel. It comes with a patch of self-stick Velcro. We never say Velcro because we get letters from them saying it's a trade name. But you put this hook and loop inside this coin purse, and you can close it up and make it even quieter. There's a little trench in the bottom, so if you want to put a little small pin in there, I don't know, a little small, handcuff key, handy thing, you can do that. So why am I telling you about a coin purse other than the fact that I travel a lot and it annoys the heck out of me to have all these coins? The great thing about a coin purse is you can go anywhere with a coin purse, anywhere. Coin purse is the most legal thing in the world because we all need coins. And you know what? It's handy to have a coin purse full of all those quarters that you cannot think of another thing to do with. Q-O-R-E Precision. Check it out. Yes, it's overpriced, but it's a coin purse. Okay, let's take a look at this guy right here. It's my Wilson Combat Glock G19. This is a Glock that was built out of scrap parts. When Bill started back working on Glocks again, he says, hey, send me a Glock. You got a Glock spare, right? And I said, actually, I have enough Glock parts, which I assembled into a Glock, which you can do, and sent it to Bill. And it came back from the shop, which is easily the best Glock that I own. It is just super. When I was with Bill Wilson at our Practical Shooters reunion, which you're going to see on Shooting Gallery. Remember, right now on Outdoor Channel, Season 20 of Shooting Gallery is showing. First show on New Year's Day with Taryn Butler. We got incredible social media response. You need to check this out. It's going to absolutely rock this season. But when I was down with Billy and Ken Hackathorn and all the guys, Bill said, why don't you send me that Glock that we built for you and we'll put on our new True Zero optic system. And I said, yeah, sure. And so it came back just before Christmas. Nice Christmas present. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. But let's talk first, okay? How do red dots get on guns? Well, you got a lot of different options. Let's go from easy to complicated, right? This is easy, of course. This is one of my training pistols, right? A SIRT, S-I-R-T training pistol. And you've seen it before. Is I wanted to put a red dot on it. It's a cheap red dot. Why would you put a cheap red dot on it? Because what kills red dots is recoil. Trust me, this gun, no slide, no bang. It's a laser gun. It doesn't have any recoil. But the easiest way to mount a red dot on any gun is to use a mount that replaces the sight and locks into the sight dovetail. That's what this mount does. So I knocked the rear sight out of this gun on the slide, and I slipped this plate in, which had a piece that slid into the dovetail, and then I tightened it down and super glued it to death. Not super glued it, blue Loctite, which makes super glue look easy. But that's the easiest way to do it. You'll notice that the red sight goes away. That's okay, because this is one of my training pistols for competition. And in competition, remember, we don't actually care about having co-witnessing front or co-witnessing rear sights, backup sight set. This is my go-to Glock, my everyday Glock. It is from Suarez International, of course. Gabe Suarez built this gun up for me. It has a Trijicon RMR in it, and it has been milled into the slide. And after the slide, in fact, was milled for it, then it was a set of Suarez suppressor height, rear sight, and then their front sight, which has got a little bit of tritium in it. So basically, if this dot should implode, explode, blow up, or stop working, you still have your rear sights. We have a similar milling here on this G19X you've seen before. This is a Crimson Trace sight. It is milled into the slide. And you'll notice here it's taken away the dovetail in the rear. And that's kind of an important thing because recoil causes everything to move backwards and then forwards. It's a violent motion. The sight needs to be nestled into that slide. We're going to take a look at some other options when we get back, and then we'll also maybe talk about this funny knob out here on the end of this Glock. This week's Triggered is sponsored by Lipsey's and their Gun of the Month, the innovative firearms from Franklin Armory, Lucid Optics, on target and under budget, Tandem Cross and their great selection of 22 parts, and Cimarron Firearms, the king of the cowboys. Welcome back to Triggered, our weekly video series available to you on michaelbain.tv, and our very first episode of 2020, the Roaring 20s. We've been talking about red dot sights on guns and how they get there. Obviously, the easiest way is milling the slide, but Glock with their MOS, their miniature optics sight available guns, essentially came pre-cut for a plate that can carry a sight. This is a Trijicon SRO, which may well be the best competition sight ever made. But the plate bolts into the slide where the milling cut is, and then the sight bolts into the plate. Advantage, you can change sights. In this case, well, SRO, you can change the battery with the sight still on the gun. Otherwise, you have to take it off. It's a little bit of an easier process. Probably overrated, but this gives you a plate so you can change sights. This, by the way, is an aftermarket plate. It sits just a little bit lower than the Glock standard plate, which is the issue. Whenever you say I mill the slide, but I've got to have a little bitty tiny plate there to attach the sight to, well, one of the things that you're going to notice is it's going to sit slightly higher than a deeply milled slide. And as you can see here, there are no backup iron sights. This is a competition gun. This is a G34 9mm setup for competition. I don't care about the backup sights. Were I to say this is going to go with me to fight aliens, we would want backup iron sights on it. Before we get to the Wilson, just one other option when we talk about backup iron sights. This is a Shield from England, one of their miniature optics, compact size. And the neat thing about this that I wanted to show you is, aside from the fact that it's really small, this is a Car CM9, which is essentially the same width as a Glock 43, which is essentially the same width as a SIG 365, which I carry now. It fits roughly designed for that slide width. It also has a rear sight cut in the back of the red dot. So if you have the correct size front sight height, and this is, by the way, a custom front sight from Dave Dawson, you can co-witness with this sight. The only other sight this small, of course, is the SIG Zero, Romeo Zero, which I've shot, haven't had a chance to get one. We're looking or expecting it to come in any day now, along with, hey, a 22 caliber Glock. All sorts of amazing things are in the mail. But anyway, so Billy says, I want to build the best red sight optic mount that I can. And of course, Bill himself is, you know, a great grandmaster level shooter, legendary competitor, and his running buddy and one of my best friends, Ken Hackathorn, is not exactly chopped liver himself. Plus, Team Wilson, people who shoot for him. So they spent about 6 or 8 months figuring out this optic setup here, this True Zero optic. And so once again, you've got a plate. That is, I think, a 4140 alloy steel plate. The plate bolts into the mill cut on the slide. You can get this for a Glock. You can also get this for selected 1911s. Bill is a little pissy about which 1911s he works on. Usually only his. But, so you get this milled out, the plate goes in, and then this custom designed Wilson Combat suppressor height rear sight is also mounted in there. The way Bill designed, and Bill and his engineers designed this plate and the milling slot, is it's self-leveling. So if you take this sight off, say you want to replace the battery in your RMR, and then you start thinking, well, just in case, I want to make sure that this plate is bolted down solid to the slide. Because trust me, there's nothing more depressing in a match, and I would imagine in a life or death encounter, when you realize you can wiggle the red dot on top of the gun. It's kind of like, well, that sucks. But they built a self-leveling system into the plate. So when you take the plate off and put it back on, you're going to get absolute return to zero, which is, gosh, why he calls it True Zero. But the other thing is that the way this whole back end is set up, this whole plate back here, where the plate is carrying the sight, it acts as a recoil, essentially, buffer back there. Which, as I said before, you know, what you've got in a pistol is you've got a slide made of metal going very fast back and forth. Anything you bolt on top of it, it's going to take a beating. And the bigger it is, the heavier it is, the more beating it's going to take. And the Wilson design engineers took that into account when they built this plate. It is designed to absorb the impact and not shear bolts, because that's what generally happens. If there's too much stress on the sight, on a heavy sight mounted on a quickly reciprocating slide, it is likely to shear the screws, the bolts that hold this thing in. You know, the next thing you know, you're going to all of a sudden find your sight somewhere in Pittsburgh. So again, high sight. Now you'll notice a little bit, I just want to show you just a little bit of comparison with my go-to Suarez. Little bit higher on that front sight. That is really definitely a shark's fin up there. If you happen to be a parrot head, you know, you got your fin, right? Well, you definitely got a fin on the front. And that is because the sight is sitting up slightly higher because of the plate. But once again, you've got a great sight picture. So one of the points that I've made repeatedly on this Wilson is it is easily one of the best Glocks I've ever shot in my life. Everybody that I put this gun in their hand comment on what a great shooter it is. They like that Wilson Combat pattern. And now that it's got this optic on it, by the way, this is kind of a brand new Tridge RMR. This is in slate gray. It's an overrun from some federal agency, I believe. But the only sights that Bill deals with are the RMR, the Gen 2 RMRs from Trijicon, with the Acro. God, I hate acronyms. Of course, the Aimpoint, the little square boxy Aimpoint sight, and the Leupold Delta Point Pro. The Delta Point Pro has its own rear sight module that fits in. So that's one of the things that, you know, if you say, I want to put this on my Glock, or I want Billy to build me up a Glock, or build me up a 1911, or one of his excellent Carry 9mm, you're going to decide between one of those three options. But I, you know, again, Bill's a great gun. It's Wilson barrel. It's all set up by Wilson. So that is an option, and that is in a lot of ways state of the art. That's what we're talking about here, into how to put a red dot on a Glock. This is, by the way, this is my competition G19X. I've shot it in competition. I love the window on this Crimson Trace. It is a great window. This is my third sight. Think about that just a minute, folks. First one, I broke the glass, which, because I can break anything. The second one, the dot went missing in action. And when I tried to move the dot back to the center, which seems like a reasonable place for the dot, I lost all control on the windage on the dot. That went back. This is the third sight. I love the sight. I love the adjustment. I love the window. It's a little skeptical of it right at this point in time. But this is from KKM, I believe. It is a compensator, muzzle brake. It has a function of keeping the barrel down. Yes, we designed this in competition, and now you actually see them, even in terms of a street gun or carry gun or something like that. There's a long waiting list for this. That's why you haven't seen it sooner. It comes with a threaded barrel. It screws on the barrel. It's got two Allen screws here that you can lock it down on the barrel. You don't want to blue Loctite that, or even red Loctite that, because remember, how do we clean a Glock? We take the barrel out this way. So you got to take the comp off to be able to take the barrel out, clean the gun. But you're going to see this. We're going to put some rounds to it. I'm going to show you that it really does back down on the recoil. In fact, Suarez, who's very much of a non-competition but a street guy, makes a street compensator for Glocks. It's on his personal carry Glock. So, anyway, that is a quick treatise on red dots. It's also about Billy Wilson's True Zero optic and a coin purse. I mean, where else do you find out about coin purses, kid? I'm Michael Bain. This is Triggered. And please stay with us every week. We're going to be right here on michaelbain.tv, and you're going to see more and more and more really cool things coming out of here. So until next week, adios.